where readers and writers come together. That's the goal of the Writers Alliance of Gainesville Sunshine State Book Festival. And I have been having so much fun introducing you to many of the authors that will be a part of the Sunshine State Book Festival. And I'm very pleased to have the two gentlemen that are with me today, Johnny Bell, who is in Gainesville, Florida, and Douglas Wemple, who is down near Orlando. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
having us.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this whole notion of writing. I've had people on who write professionally, and that's all they do. But you guys have other lives, and you decided to write a book. Johnny, what brought that on?
Well, a lot of my desire to write a book was based on my experiences as an educator, working with a lot of students that were having academic troubles and personal troubles, and not seeing people of color in lead roles in stories. And that's what motivated me to write, to make books that featured Black characters.
And Douglas, you started writing during COVID. What prompted you to write a book?
Well, I've had a passion for writing for a long time and thought about it for years and years and years. But finally, during the pandemic of 2020, life really slowed down for a lot of us. And so I really found myself with, looking for something to do, and figured it was finally time, to sit down and share a story. So.
And the story that you shared, Unforgiven, it's a fictional story. Tell us about the story.
So it's a fictional story, but as I wrote the book and went through the process, what I really found was that in order to find healing when we're hurting and struggling in the world, we have to start with forgiving ourselves. Forgiving ourselves for all of our past, failures and struggles. And that's really, I didn't really know at the time when I started writing about forgiveness that's how it would reach me. But it really was with some self-reflection and some self-forgiveness. And then in the story, it kind of outlines, the healing power of forgiveness when people learn to forgive one another, how healing that can be.
Yeah, we could talk a little more about that. The book that I've written is The Art of Forgiveness, which is, of course, when we understand that we are forgiven. I don't know how that impacted you in your writing. Mm-hmm. Then it helps you to understand how we are to forgive, because we are forgiven.
Absolutely.
So, Johnny, you were teaching school, and in your early life, you didn't even like reading, huh?
No, I like to learn, but I didn't like to sit and read with a book. I'd rather be outside playing with toy cars or riding my bike.
So how did your stories come about? You said you wanted to make sure that children were able to see people that looked like them, and you're in the education system and you didn't see enough of that.
Correct. And really what I saw was a lot of literature that portrayed and promoted the traditional family or the American dream, but there weren't a lot of stories that were real, like that could apply to students that I was dealing with, with families going through maybe a loss of a loved one or adoption or or remarriages or just different work problems, life problems, different struggles that we face in our lives. And I wanted to create books that would embrace those stories and, let children know that it's okay, that you don't have to come from a traditional family. And I think that's what I've been able to accomplish.
In writing for both of you, Douglas, you said you started writing and you discovered something that you didn't know need to be discovered, perhaps. Um, Talk about this writing process as a form of therapy, because in the book, The Art of Forgiveness, I certainly recommend that people write. How therapeutic was this for you all to write your books, Douglas?
Yeah, absolutely. It was extremely therapeutic. I had reached a really difficult point in my life in 2020, and I had actually had thoughts about ending my own life. And so, one of the things that's happened over the last couple of years is I've become very aware of the issues that we have in society today with suicide, especially amongst kids. Like Johnny, I've spent a lot of years in sports, and I've also never been one that's really been into reading. I'm more hands-on and being involved. But sitting down and writing the book, there was just a piece about it that I had never experienced or felt before. It really, you know, in a way, it was almost kind of a euphoric feeling for me sitting down and being able to go through and write this book.
Yeah, and I'll echo on that, Douglas. Like, so my literature is fiction novels, and it's like when I tell the kids for writing time, like fiction writing is great because like you get to determine the story. Like it's your life that you can change it however you want. Like you may be going through something at home, but like in your story, you can make that same situation, but make it with a happy ending. Or you can
Yeah.
create a new sense of drama. And it's just a nice way of like just feeling empowered in a situation that maybe you don't have any power in.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Douglas.
No, I was going to say Johnny hit the nail on the head there. There's the opportunity to write. You can be creative.
Mhm.
Especially when you're doing fictional work. And I personally found a lot of healing through it. So yeah, I think it definitely is therapy.
Well, I must ask this question, speaking with two young men who are writing. And one of the things that we all know is that men sometimes have more difficulty talking about what they're feeling. How can you all help encourage other men, other boys to write, whether they expect to publish or not, or to be okay with whatever you're feeling? I mean, do you feel like you're more capable of doing that now?
Yeah, I'll go first if that's okay,
Yeah.
Douglas.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So years ago, I was on a youth retreat, and one of the speakers talked about like keeping a journal or a diary or whatever you want to call it as a form of self-care. And I've been doing that for almost 20 years now. And it's amazing, like just the release of that tension that I have that is unloaded from writing. Just in other different support groups and um, forums where I've read about like personal mental health care, writing is one of the popular tools to use to help take care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that 100%. I, uh, I actually, when I moved to Orlando, I used to live in Michigan, moved to Orlando roughly 9 years ago. And when we first moved down here, one of the things that I knew was um, that I was going to be in a situation where I was very involved in my church back in Michigan, but I was going to be working on Sundays. And so in order to stay on the path that I wanted to stay on in life, I started writing what I called letters to Jesus. And it actually is woven into my story, something we never imagined. But last night was day 2,854 straight days of writing a daily prayer letter to Jesus. And I have found so, a lot of people would call it journaling, keeping a journal, but I write it as a prayer letter to the Lord every night.
Oh, that's wonderful. How many days?
2,854 as of last night, straight days. So that's that's over 7, almost 8 years.
Yeah.
So in writing that letter to Jesus during those times, was it during those times when you were writing that you thought about ending your life? Or was that
Yeah.
before? It was
Well,
during the time?
no, it was during that time. So I had started writing, shortly after I moved down here, which is around 2015, was when I started writing those letters, and I wrote one every day. And through the struggles, still got to a difficult point in 2020 where I just felt like, the weight of the world was just too heavy for me. And, I wrote a lot about that in my prayer letters, crying out to Jesus. And, the next thing I know, it finally led to me writing a book. And I wove that in the story where the main male character struggles with, he's a writer, he's a journalist, but he struggles with his faith and trust in the Lord. And the main female character really starts steering him back on that path. And he finds himself writing letters to Jesus. So.
Wow. So Johnny, jump in anytime you want to. And guys, we're just having a conversation. You might have a question you want to ask each other. This act of putting words on paper, and I think sometimes people feel like an author. I mean, Shakespeare was just another human who decided to write. James Weldon Johnson was just another human who decided to write. How do you help, in particularly, because I have a 26-year-old son and a 4-year-old grandson, and the struggles that men go through and feel like they don't have the support, or they can't have the emotions, they can't have the fear. One man I was talking to, he said he thought he heard somebody breaking in the house in the basement. And he said he pulled the covers up and go, "Oh God, please don't let me be the daddy tonight. I don't want to be the daddy tonight." and men sometimes, they don't have that outlet to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I listened to a podcast with Dr. Joe Martin called Real Men Connect, and it's a Christian-based podcast. And one thing that I've learned in the past couple of years is that he talks about the need for us males to have a handful of men that we can count on and rely on and be vulnerable with, and they can be vulnerable with us. And the goal of having more than one is that you have pretty much having your own support team outside of your spouse. And so it's important that you get those people that will be in your corner, but will also be honest and direct with you, while also encouraging and supporting you through your struggles. And so that's where I get the idea of like being vulnerable and finding those couple of people. And I think as we age, we can typically find at least 2 or 3 people to support us.
What about you, Douglas?
Yeah, he's right on there. That's something that's been very important for me this year. I've worked on putting a good support group in place, other Christ-like, Christ-minded men in my life, and there's a handful of them, but it's good to be able to have that outlet to them, because I think as husbands and fathers, we oftentimes have challenges trying to talk to our wives about what we're feeling, and even our kids. So I have found a lot of healing and a lot of strength in talking to other and other men.
So are you all at the place where you now feel like you can be one of the support people for somebody else? Or in the group
I
that you're in, it goes both ways. It's a two-way thing.
in the group that I'm in, I definitely feel like it goes two ways. And I'm also finding I have reconnected with a lot of friends that I haven't talked to for years and years. Some going back to the 1990s and 2000 early 2000s. People in my life that I kind of lost track of along the way. And then when I wrote my book, a lot of my friends and family were the first ones, of course, to get it and read it. And I've actually had 5 friends come to me and tell me that reading my book helped save their life.
Wow.
And yeah, and that meant more to me than anything else. Like I don't ever even have to sell a copy, knowing that you know um, that was encouraging to know that it helped them in reading it in the way that it helped me writing it. You know.
Douglas Wemple and Johnny Bell are two of the 150 authors that are going to be at the Sunshine State Book Festival coming up next year, January 27th to 28th, here in Gainesville, Florida, at Trinity United Methodist Church. And the Writers Alliance of Gainesville goal in bringing writers and readers together, readers and writers together, and that testimony there. And Louise says, yes, I began writing to Jesus. I have stories in my mind, but get confused how to start writing. My thoughts are running 100 all over the place. That may be true for everybody who writes, but you just do one word at a time. Johnny, what would you recommend for her?
It's kind of like what you just said. You just start putting them down on paper. Everyone has their own approach for how they write. And Douglas may write in a method that's completely different than mine, and that's okay because we each have our own path that works best for us to travel. But just like you said, Pamela, I just tell her to start writing it down and keeping those files somewhere where they're organized so you can get to it.
Yeah. And Johnny, you have written your work. You're an educator, working on your getting ready to work on your dissertation. You wrote these 2 books and nice covers in the back. Take the Shot was your first book, and
Right.
then Dirt Court. Tell us about those books and the messages in them.
Well, Take the Shot was based on a lot of the experiences that I had growing up. And I am an Army brat. My dad served in the military for a long time. And so I just wanted to write a story that um, shared about the experiences of a Black family growing up in the military. And what made that story special is the main character, Zach, is a middle schooler, and he's going through adjusting to middle school. He's adjusting to be, quote unquote, the man of the house while his father is deployed, trying to help his mom take care of his 2 younger sisters. And so it's just kind of about his experiences, about his love of sports, his love for his family, and his challenges of becoming a teenage boy. And the Dirt Court is a complete different spin on the idea of family in terms of a non-traditional family. And so you have a boy named Travis, and he's going through foster care, and he ends up with an interracial couple, and they're the husband and the wife are 2 very opposite people. The guy's very solemn and quiet, and the mom is just really friendly and outgoing. But in the end, Travis, learns what love is and what family can be. And it's just trying to show um, love, trying to show Jesus, trying to show different experiences are valuable.
Both of you have won awards for your works. Johnny, tell us about the awards that you've won.
So earlier this year, I was honored to be named as the inaugural winner for the Gerald Ensley Developing Author Award. And he was a journalist for the Tallahassee Democrat. Just talking to people I know that have followed his writings in Tallahassee, I've heard nothing but glowing things about him as a person and as a professional. And so hopefully I'm living up to that.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Congrats.
Douglas, you won an award. I got award-winning authors here tonight.
I won an award through Literary Titan, and then most recently the Book Fest. I won third place in the contemporary Christian category, and then also honorable mention for the book cover. And I don't have a picture of my book, but the book cover was painted by a really good friend of mine. He actually, I couldn't find what I wanted for the book cover, so I called him, and he actually had just started getting into, he always had a passion for painting, but had just started getting into it, was doing a lot of abstract stuff. And I said, can you paint me this scene? And so he did, and it was amazing. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So how significant is that for you to win an award? Hey, how about this?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my friend Richie painted that cover, so it was exactly. It was there was a scene in the book where it was where the kind of the moment in the story for the main male character where the light kind of went on, and they were back in Michigan in the fall, and fireflies appeared, and it was kind of one of those miracle moments that he realized that the only way that would ever happen would have to be orchestrated by God. And it really changed his heart and mind and soul at that point in the story. So that's kind of what I was looking for. And so, yeah, it turned out amazing.
So you explained this to your friend.
Yeah. I basically gave my friend Richie the idea. I set the scenery for what I wanted, and then he went and painted it. And on the very first try, he came back, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I love it. It's perfect."
Oh, that's amazing.
So, yeah.
And congratulations to both of you for your awards. You're coming to the Sunshine State Book Festival. How important is that for you guys to be able to meet your readers?
Go ahead, Johnny. Do you want to?
Well, it's a unique experience for me. I know a lot of my writing is kind of geared towards the younger group, but it's neat to be around adults and others that have found an interest in the type of writing that I've done. And just to hear other people's their feedback and their thoughts and their encouragement and ideas for me to improve as a writer as well. So.
Douglas?
Yeah, my book just was published, earlier this year in April on the 28th, and so for me, this is going to be my first appearance at Book Fair Festival. So it's an exciting opportunity to be able to get out there and meet not just readers, but meet the other authors that are out there and be able to learn from them. Because this is a path and a passion that I have, and I have ideas for a lot more stories that I want to write. So this is just the beginning. So I'm looking forward to making this, book festival my first appearance.
Well, that's what's going to happen on the 27th. It is an opportunity for all of the authors to meet each other, as well as the public will get to come and have more up close one-on-one conversations with the authors. Did you ever think that you would be an author, Johnny? Did you ever think that?
No way. I barely even liked reading books. But then again, I never thought I'd be an educator too. So,
What did you think you were going to be?
I don't know. I dabbled into business and economics, and I guess I don't know. I guess the funny thing is, there's a quote, Douglas, you may know. If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And God had a better plan than what I had in my wildest dreams. So
Absolutely.
Did you think you were going to be an author, Douglas?
The interesting thing about that is in the 8th grade, I won an essay contest. And then as a freshman in high school, our first semester, we had to write a short story. And so I wrote a short story, and I remember it very vividly. It was about a young boy who was going out hunting with his dad. And he found that he couldn't pull the trigger to shoot a deer. And so my mom went to conferences, and she'll never forget. She never let me forget this, that my 9th grade English teacher told her, and this was back in this would have been 1989, that she believed I was going to be an author one day. My 9th grade English teacher. So my mom never let me forget that. So a couple more years, I'll reach 50. And through all those years, my mom would always remind me. She was like, "Are you going to write a book? Are you going to write a book?" And about 8 years ago, my mom was diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I finally wrote a book during the pandemic, I told her, and she was the first one other than my wife to get a copy that I just printed out on the computer and sent to her to read. And she absolutely loved it. And she was like, "I always knew you were going to be an author." She always knew it. I never knew it. Unfortunately, she passed away January 4th of this year, and my book wasn't released until April 28th. So she never actually got to see a printed copy of it. But she always encouraged me. So in the back of my mind, I kept telling myself, I got to write a book. I actually have one I'm working on. A friend of mine who really helped lead me back to Christ went to work for the church and ended up finding out he had Lou Gehrig's disease and was given 2 years to live. And so I spent those last couple of years, this was in 2010, I spent those last couple of years with him working on taking notes, and I'm preparing to write a book about his life. So,
Wow.
and the impact he had on the world and on me. So it's really led me to where I am today.
Well, you gentlemen are so inspiring, both of you, in the work that you're doing. And I'm so excited that you are sharing your thoughts and your inspiration with others and encouraging young men of all ages to join you on this journey. We need you so much, both of you. We need you to be a beacon of light, a beacon of hope for so many young people, including my son, who are just trying to find their way. And I applaud you in what you're doing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate you all and look forward to meeting you in January. To all of you who are watching, if you're in the Gainesville area or you want to come to Gainesville, come visit us. Louise, you can come here to Gainesville and visit. Oh, Louise says, thank you, great advice. And yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been so uplifting for so many people who watch and enjoy the stories and enjoy these interviews that we're doing. And tonight was no different, quite inspiring and quite uplifting. If you're watching on Facebook, please feel free to like and share. On LinkedIn, do the same. And if you're watching on our YouTube channel at the Wellness Network, please subscribe so that you can be notified of other shows that we're doing that will be uplifting, inspiring, and educating. My book, The Art of Forgiveness, is available on my website at PamelaDMarshall.com. PamelaDMarshall.com. Again, thank you all so much for being here with us this evening. We will see you next time. In the meantime, I'm Pamela Marshall at the Wellness Radio TV and at the Wellness Radio TV podcast. Remember, there is healing at the well. Make it a fantastic moment. We'll see you next time.